Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. I'm back. I'm alive. I haven't been taken by MIB or anything like that. Haven't been abducted. But it's taken me a long time to even bring myself to making videos on the subject of Sasquatch for a few reasons. One, I definitely feel like the field of Bigfoot is kind of stagnant, and I've just been kind of wanting to dive into new ideas and theories as to what could be going on. And my whole experience and ongoing experiences with the UFO subject has led me to some really interesting thoughts and ideas and theories. And I think they closely relate to and apply to the subject of Bigfoot. Another thing that happened, and I haven't told really anyone publicly about this, is that last year my dad passed away. And if you're a longtime viewer of Mountain Beast Mysteries and you've seen my first film, Wild Man, My Search for Sasquatch, he's a big part of that film and a big part of getting me interested in the subject of Bigfoot. So sometimes exploring the subject of Bigfoot and talking about it is kind of like not a fun subject anymore because of that. So like that was our thing when we would talk on the phone. We would just talk about Bigfoot for like hours. And, you know, I'd always thought, oh, maybe one day we could go to Henry Lake, that lake on Vancouver Island where I shot that first Wildman film. I thought maybe we could go out there one day and film it, and it'd be a really cool thing. But like that'll never happen now. And a lot of people have passed away in the realm of Sasquatch recently. Jeff Meldrum, and it's crazy. Like the whole landscape of the world of Bigfoot is so much different. But I am doing my best to step up to the plate and try and get some more videos and content to you guys. It is sad. Obviously, my dad was a big part of this channel, and it even becoming a thing. And I mean, now I guess he probably knows the answers to all these mysteries, which is cool. But yeah, if you've watched my latest video, I kind of touch on some kind of far out ideas in the second half of that video, especially. So if you haven't seen that, go give it a watch, and you'll probably be like, "What the hell is this guy on about? Is he on drugs?" And you know, I don't even know what I'm on right now. But the whole experience of like having UFO sightings and whatnot led me down some really weird rabbit holes, and the whole time, for some reason, I couldn't help but shake the idea that I might be making this happen somehow. You'll see a lot of people talk about CE5 protocols and meditations and like summoning UFOs. I don't think people are summoning UFOs. I think they're aligning with a vibrational like frequency or archetype or symbol of some kind that exists in higher consciousness. And I think when they do that, some sort of co-creation occurs between higher consciousness and like individual consciousness. It creates an event of some kind. And every time I would have these experiences, it would never be like a typical UFO thing. It was like weird lights and creature looking things that none of it made sense. It wasn't like your standard nuts and bolts UFO or anything like that. I know I'm talking about UFOs now. I'm supposed to be talking about Bigfoot, but it ties together. I think a possibility of what is going on with Bigfoot is that we are somehow giving energy and focus to a certain archetype that exists, an ancient archetype that has existed since the dawn of man, basically, since we've lived alongside other upright hominids. I think this psychic framework, this archetype, this symbolic energy that exists in the collective psyche is not just like an archetype or a symbol, but like a living archetype and symbol that is almost it almost has its own intelligence in a way. It's like alive. It's almost like an entity. And when you align with its frequency in certain circumstances, if you're out in an area that has certain energies, if you're out in the forest, where the wild man archetype, would make sense to be alive, and that energy would be, you would, somehow end up co-creating an encounter of some kind, which it doesn't mean it's like a hallucination or anything. It's an actual event that occurs where, footprints can be left behind. You could see and film a creature. It's just the nature of the experience coming to be is that of something quantum and confusing. Like, there's so many Bigfoot stories that don't make any sense for like the flesh and blood theories. There's a lot of paranormal aspects, supernatural aspects, and I've had weird experiences. If you've been on the channel for a long time, I've made a couple films about like the idea of the supernatural Sasquatch, and there's other people who've had really strange experiences that don't make any logical sense. And when you really start looking at Bigfoot with logic, it doesn't really get you anywhere. Like, you can be looking for a flesh and blood Bigfoot your whole life and you're not going to find anything. John Bindernagel was doing it. Jeff Meldrum was doing it. And they spent their whole lives looking for that, and nothing's been found. Nothing's been proven yet. I started looking into Bigfoot. I started making my first film on Bigfoot in like 2013 or 14 or something. It's been over 10 years now. And the only experiences I've had after spending countless hours in the bush, the only experiences I've had seemed paranormal. Having things walk by the tent, or like I remember, I think it was it the first supernatural Sasquatch film? I think it was, where I was at that guy's property out in the country somewhere, and like he was convinced that there were Sasquatch harassing him and like approaching his house, and there were what looked like Sasquatch footprints in the snow, and then we had an experience where something ran at us, but we couldn't see anything. It was like a just an auditory experience. Basically, you heard heavy footprints running towards us in the darkness ahead, very close and fast, and then it was like nothing was there. Like, if you haven't seen the video, if you're a new subscriber, go back in the history and check it out. The Supernatural Sasquatch is what it's called. Also, if you haven't seen my UFO documentary, The Beings from Beyond, have a look at that as well. That's definitely worth a watch. I think sometimes when you align with these archetypal forms, if this is what's going on, depending on how much you're aligned with it, it could dictate how much of an experience you have, in the sense like you might hear a noise or you might see a creature. There's going to be like, it's like a spectrum basically of activity. And I've had a few experiences where I could hear stuff but never see anything. I'll tell a story that happened last November. I haven't told the story before. I didn't even bother making a video about it, because at the time there were so many weird things going on. It was last November. I was filming a lot of UFO activity out along the North Saskatchewan River in Alberta. And it was like it might have been the 22nd or something like that of November. There's a fresh blanket of snow on the ground. It's the middle of the night. I'm in my tent. Like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, basically. There's nobody around. It's cold out. Like, it was well below zero at night. There's nobody else really camping. There might be hunters around. It was real late at night. I think it was around like 2 or 3 o'clock or something like that. Probably like 2. And I wake up in my tent and I have to go pee. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get out of my sleeping bag, get my boots on, and I'm just gonna get up out of the tent and go pee. And that was the plan. So I sit up, I have my headlamp on, and I start tying, like putting my boots on and tying my boots. And as I'm tying my boots, I hear something out of nowhere walk up to my tent. Like, when I say up to my tent, I mean right up to my tent. And it would have been on my left side, the way I was in the tent. And the door was there too on that left side. Something, I thought it was a person. The thought of Bigfoot or anything never even crossed my mind while it was happening, because it sounded exactly like a person walking up to the tent. And I just freeze. Like, it was so close. If there was no tent wall right there, I could have touched whatever it was. I freeze because I'm thinking there's a human being for some reason, like right outside the tent. He walked up to the tent and he's gonna kill me. That's what I was thinking, because like, who the hell walks up to a tent in the middle of the night with light coming from like inside the tent? I had my headlamp on. Who in their right mind would walk up to a tent in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, knowing there's someone in there who could be armed? Like, I didn't have a gun with me at the time, but I could have had a gun. It would take a crazy person to walk up to a tent in the middle of the night like that and surprise someone. That's what I was thinking. So I'm thinking, this is a crazy person and I'm about to get murdered. I remember I froze and I'm like, I vocally was like, hello? And then there was nothing for a little while, and then all of a sudden I hear a couple steps as it seemed to walk away, crunching in the snow. And when I heard that again, I'm like, hello? And then nothing at all. And so I'm just sitting there frozen. I realize I have a hatchet inside my tent, so I grab that and I just sit there waiting. And finally, like after a while, I decide, okay, I have to like open the tent and see what the hell is outside and who was it. Then I start thinking, oh, maybe it was like an animal or something, like a deer or even a moose. Like, at the time, Bigfoot or anything else never even crossed my mind. I was concerned about being like killed by a human being. So I ended up gathering the courage to open up the tent door, and I looked outside, and I'm looking for the first thing. I'm thinking there's going to be tracks in the snow. And I open up the tent, there's nobody there, and there's no other tracks other than my own. So I'm thinking, man, am I going crazy? Because it was so loud, the footsteps, because they were so close. There was no mistaking it. It sounded exactly like a human. So then I'm thinking like other crazy stuff, like, is this like some sort of echo of myself in time walking up to the tent or something? like I don't know. I was thinking crazy things. And then the next day I was thinking like maybe it had to do with the alien stuff, because I was filming a lot of UFOs at the time. And finally I'm like, oh, I guess it could have been a Bigfoot thing, but I never really got the vibes of that. Like, even though it sounded like a person walking on two legs, it was like, I just wasn't sure. And to this day I'm thinking it could have been anything. It could have been alien, it could have been Bigfoot, it could have been something. At the time I was totally like into the UFO stuff. That's what I was thinking about. So I was thinking maybe it's a being, like an alien being of some kind. I don't know, but I guess it's possible, just being out in that spot in nature, in the cold, harsh conditions. Maybe I was aligned with this wild man archetype, and maybe it bled through and came into reality somehow. I'll never know. But it was just one of those weird, creepy experiences. And then I think I stayed a couple more nights after that and then left. And those nights afterwards, nothing happened. But I was curious to know if something would happen. Obviously, I was also scared shitless. But yeah, my theories now are that a lot of this phenomena, this paranormal or supernatural phenomena, has to do with these archetypes that exist, that have been developed for thousands of years. Like, there's star archetypes that could bring about certain UFO experiences. Not all UFO experiences. I still think there's life on other planets, some probably capable of interstellar travel and whatnot. But more like the interdimensional experiences, I think some of those, like seeing lights and weird orbs and stuff flying around in the sky, like the stuff I documented in my film, I think that stuff could be like archetypal forms of some kind that get projected into reality as an experience. I came up with a name for this in the title, Archetypal Convergence, which is the moment when archetypes or myth crosses into reality, into an experience, basically. And I guess right now it's just a theory, but it's a theory that can be tested if one can, put themselves in certain situations and in certain mindsets, like states of mind, that are of a same resonant frequency of these archetypes. And it's like, how do you know what frequency an archetype is at? Well, you don't really know the frequency in terms of numbers or anything, but if you immerse yourself in the spirit of that archetype, in the energy of that archetype, like certain archetypes are a certain way, like, you have the wild man archetype, so you're going to be thinking about the forest and doing things out in nature and survival and things like that. Those will put you on the same frequency as the wild man, or I don't know, the trickster. I think a lot of paranormal activity that happens could be attributed to trickster archetypes that show up in different forms. An archetype won't necessarily be the same form all the time. They wear different masks. So, like, if you think of mythological stories and whatnot, myths are made up of archetypal forms. All the characters in mythology are representing different archetypes. So you'll have different versions of like the hero archetype, like King Arthur, or Hercules, or like heroic characters. All are of the hero archetype, basically. And the trickster archetype can manifest in different paranormal forms as like shadow beings, or even not even as like a visual sighting, but as like poltergeist activity or something of the sorts. Something of that nature. But yeah, it's something that I think can be tested, and that's what I plan on doing, is immersing myself in different mythologies and stories based on these archetypes, and putting myself in different situations and different environments that reflect these archetypes in hopes of bringing about some sort of experience. I feel like I've done a fine job of it with the UFO stuff. It wasn't even like a conscious thing, really. Like, I was hoping that I would see something, but I was always like fully immersed in the lore. Like, I was reading books and listening to podcasts and watching all kinds of documentaries on the subject of UFOs. And sure enough, weird stuff starts happening. But not the typical, not what I would have expected for UFOs. It was just strange light anomalies, and I don't know. I'm hoping I can make it happen with Bigfoot, because that's like the thing I really want to see. I want to see a Sasquatch. And I don't know. I just think in the realm of Bigfoot, not a lot of new stuff has been happening, and the ways and methods of going about looking for this thing, that these methods that people have been using, haven't really brought about any like crazy experiences or anything that's been able to be filmed. And my hope is that because I've been able to do this with the UFO field and actually film stuff, that maybe I can make it happen with Bigfoot. But we will see. Archetypal Convergence. My goal is to also finish a book I'm working on of this topic. that really explains everything in a much better way than I'm probably doing right now, and much better way than in the video I just uploaded explains. But I do want to put out a book on this, and it'll make a lot more sense in the book. And yeah, it applies to Bigfoot, to some of the UFO stuff, not all of it, because I do think there's like beings that probably visit here from other planets, other galaxies. Oh god, this fire, getting smoked out. The paranormal stuff for sure, poltergeists, apparitions of all sorts could definitely be a result of this theory. And yeah, definitely want to find Bigfoot now. I'm determined to find it after losing my dad, because that was like our thing, so now I really want to find it. I feel like I have to. I don't know how, if it's gonna happen or how it's gonna come to be, but I'm hoping with these new ideas and just exploring new avenues of research, I think, you know, something will happen. I mean, I've had these weird experiences where I've heard things walking around, but have never been able to see anything. And I think if I keep pursuing this theory, that I could probably bring about more experiences like that. It's very similar to the experiences Ron Moorhead had. He recorded the famous Sierra sounds. They would always hear the creatures, and sometimes they would see weird light anomalies, which is similar to like what I've experienced and filmed. They would never see the Bigfoot creatures, but you could definitely hear them. Multiple Bigfoot creatures out in the darkness. There's something more to these things than them just being a flesh and blood animal, like, for sure. Things are just getting so weird in the world. Like, there's so many weird things happening that don't really make any sense, and logic alone can't figure this stuff out. Like, you have to kind of walk this line between logic and like a life of myth, almost like spirituality. You kind of have to have a balance of the two to navigate life. You know, if you're in logic completely, things kind of fall apart, and you know, you just keep going down and down these rabbit holes trying to figure things out, and just going crazy. It doesn't work, and it doesn't explain a lot of these weird things that are happening. You kind of have to you kind of have to open yourself up to the possibilities of more supernatural and spiritual explanations, because these beings could be that of a spiritual nature. They could be something that primarily exists in a realm of higher consciousness. We just don't know. But I would like to explore those other higher concepts and see what happens, because at this point, like, there's nothing to lose. Nobody's proven anything yet, and I don't know. Through my experiences, I'm just convinced there's a lot more to the mystery. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on for this video. We'll look into it a lot more in the future. I'll break things down in a way that's more digestible. Talking about it in my last video and right now, I still feel like I'm doing a horrible job at like explaining my thoughts on it. It's really hard to wrap your head around some of these higher concepts, stuff that involves consciousness. I'm always like doing circles in my head, trying to figure things out in my head. I've just had a lot of weird experiences, especially with the UFO stuff, that's led me to believe that there's some stuff going on that is a lot more than what we could have ever imagined. But thanks for watching this video. If you guys want to follow my Instagram, I have the link down below and yeah, a TikTok link as well. I haven't posted there much in a while, but I plan on posting more on both platforms in the near future. So Instagram and TikTok down below in the description. If you are new here, if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're aware of new uploads. And we'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.